Okay, so I'm going to ask you to do something this morning. I don't want this to be a 30-minute monologue by any stretch. So you're going to get to do something this morning, kind of start us off. Most of you were given a card like this, and pencil or paper. If you don't have one, you can scribble on your bulletin or whatever. Or if you don't have anything like that, write on your arm, or just remember to tell your friend. But what I want you to do this morning before we start, I want you to write down an intangible value. Intangible simply means something that you can't, is not able to be touched or grasped or bottled. You can't buy it or sell it. It's not something that is a commodity. An intangible value that you hold to that is really high for you. For example, it could be loyalty, it could be love, it could be peace. Security is not something you can put in a bottle. There's a variety of things that are intangible that might be really important to you. What's at least one of those values that nobody can buy or sell that's important to you, intangible value? Take a second, write that down, and I'm going to ask you just to share it with somebody that you're nearby, okay? So take a second to do that. Okay, so I think what you're going to find out of the vast majority of people, that what they've put down as an intangible value, probably for most people, is one of those things that we human beings invest an incredible amount of time, money, energy, and hope to gain them. But oftentimes we try to get those things, the highest things that humans in human relationships, the highest things that in human value are those intangible things. Probably the thing on your list are things that everybody hopes for, wishes for, desires. And they try to gain those things and invest a ton of their time, energy, and money trying to gain those things. But oftentimes they try to gain those things in ways that never are going to get those things for them. For example, people use sex to get love. People use drugs to get peace. People try to buy contentment. Oh, if I only had, fill in the blank, I'd be happy. How many times have you heard somebody say, this car's a piece of junk. If I only had this, if I could just get a new car, I'd be happy. And they get the new car and that doesn't do it for them. They try to buy loyalty with money. They try to buy respect with achievement and importance with notoriety. And you can look around the world and say, you got all that stuff, how's it working for you? And it doesn't buy them those intangible things. Some of those things that you wrote down, it doesn't buy those things for them because it can't buy those things for them. Or it buys it for them only momentarily and then it slips away and they have to go buy another car, get a bigger piece of property or have another achievement, another award. Make sure that they get their name out there somehow or another so they can feel those intangible things that they're desiring. That's human nature. And the human nature always has this tendency to confuse the tangible with the intangible. We assign value to things where we ought not to assign value to them at all, and sometimes think by looking around in the world, boy, if I could nail that, I'm going to get those things that I've always desired in my heart. I want to give you a dumb allegory for that just to maybe help paint this picture. Imagine my wife and I are having some marital problems, and we're finding that our marriage doesn't really have much joy left in it. And so I'm going, okay, I gotta do something. I gotta find something that's going to bring joy. So I go to places where you can find joy, like Big Save. And I'm looking around Big Save for something that's going to bring joy, and I find it. And when I go home, I see that there's this big pile of dishes because, well, you know how things are when things fall apart. There's this big pile of dishes in the sink. And I say to myself, well, I got this idea. I'm going to just pour joy all over that. And I pour joy all over. I got to wash them all off, put them all away. And my wife comes home and she goes, whoa, wow, look what you did. And all of a sudden, the whole tone, atmosphere changes, and all of a sudden, there's joy in the house. And so I go to my buddies and go, hey, man, you want to know? You want to have some joy in your life? Just buy this. Worked for me. And of course, you see the idiocy in this example. No. You're more predictable than you know. You see the idiocy in this example because, of course, it's not a detergent or anything. It was the act. It was the act of going in and doing something that maybe your wife thought she was going to have to do, and you did it voluntarily, and that's what brought her the joy. But so many of us are like that in so many things. We invest in the wrong thing, and then we wait for the result. And if we get a result, we sometimes attribute it to that when it's not that thing at all. In other words, we oftentimes have no idea about what brings that intangible to life. For a number of years, I was asked to speak, and they were required to come to every 10th grader at Waimea Canyon. Every 10th grade boy in Waimea Canyon they had to go listen to my class. And my class was on the difference between being a man and being a male. And as part of that class, I would talk about the difference between being a guy and being a girl, and what girls are like and what guys are like, because frankly, 10th grade boys have no idea. And so I would say something like this to every class, every year. I would say, all right, so if there's a girl that you liked and you wanted to show her how much you cared for her, and you wanted to get her something, what would you get her? And pretty much they all came up with the same thing. They all said, flowers. Okay, would that work? Most everybody's nodding their heads. And then I'd said this, and this was the giveaway question. So why do girls like flowers? Because they smell good? So why have you got a bunch of flowers? Why wouldn't you like that? They smell good. Do you not like things that smell good? Well, yeah. So why do girls like flowers? Is it because they're pretty? You don't like pretty things? If you got a bouquet of gym socks, is that better? I mean, no. And they couldn't. In the end, this is what they got. Why does a boy give flowers to a girl? Because they work. That's it. They had no idea of the message that they were giving by the flowers. They had no idea of that the girl who was receiving the flowers was getting that as a signal. I care about you. I love you. I want you to be part of my family forever. And when are we going to get married? And they had no idea that was the message they were getting. They just thought they're going to get some girl to like them. Now, we do this all the time. We confuse the joy for the intangible. And we get lost in the mechanics of the tangible things because the world is full of tangible things we have to deal with. You have your checking account and your car oil has to be changed and the lawn has to be mowed, and we have all the tangible things. We get caught up in the mechanics of them, and we lose sight of the most important things of life, the things that really value. And the poster child for this is found in the scriptures. Her name was Martha. And the Bible tells us a story about Martha. It starts in Luke chapter 10. It tells a story that Jesus' disciples, they were on their way, and they came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. Now, Martha lived with her sister Mary. She had a home, and she opened her home to Jesus, which meant that when she opened her home to Jesus, not only did she get Jesus, but she got everybody else included. All the disciples, all the followers, all the people, all the enemies, everybody would came to this home, became the hub. And Martha, when she did that, she had the idea of oriental hospitality. When somebody comes into your home, you take care of their every need. And so Martha said, man, I got to take care of these people. I got to feed them. I got to offer them all the courtesies of life in this home. And so she enlisted her sister Mary, who lived with her, and said, look, we got a job to do. We got a job to do. And they began the process of getting that home ready, getting all the poo-poos ready and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, Mary is absent. The Bible puts it this way. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to him. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. And you can read between the lines of what's going on here. Where's Mary? Where's Mary? Have you seen Mary? Where is she? I think she's out. And she's peering through all the people, and there she sees Mary plop right in front of Jesus, front row seats. And you can imagine what's going on. And just stewing in the back, slamming the pot down, slamming, the drawer shut, just stewing in the back. How could she do this, And maybe she's trying to signal her, but of course her back's turned. And after a while of just flipping out by how could she possibly negate this important responsibility? We have stuff we have to do, food we have to prepare, people we have to take. She had the gall to interrupt Jesus. He's probably right in the middle. Blessed are the, and then, hey, excuse me, Jesus. But can you give me a break here? Look, I got a lot of stuff to do. Look at would you just tell my sister to get her butt back in the kitchen? I'm paraphrasing. But look at the response of Jesus, and this is really telling. Jesus looked at her and he said, now everything's ground to a halt. Everybody's looking at Martha, who's steaming hot. And Jesus goes, Martha. They took some of those out. You're worried and you're upset about many, many things. But in the end, Martha, just a few things are needed. Or indeed, in the end, there's just only one. And Mary has chosen what's better. She's chosen the one thing that's really, really needed. And guess what, Mary? It will not be taken away from her. In other words, this food is going to be consumed. This event will be over. This will be a footnote in your life. I entertain Jesus here. They'll maybe have a house with your plaque on it or something. But in the end, that's going to go away too. But what Mary is getting, what was Mary getting? Could you put it in a bottle? Could you sell it? Could you market it? Could you advertise it on TV? What was Mary getting that was so important? That was the main thing. It was an intangible goodness of what God was doing through the words of Jesus and his presence in her life by being there at the foot of Jesus that Martha was missing and Mary had clued into. Martha was a steward of the wrong things. She was a good steward, but she was a good steward of the wrong things. And it's very, very, very easy for you and I, to get involved in being good stewards of the here and now and bad stewards of the now and forever. Because that means we need to be stewards of our soul. Stewards of the right thing, of the things that really matter. And many Christians have this all upside down. Because in the world of God, it's the intangible world that lives forever, that's eternal. Paul writes in Corinthians, so we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but we fix our eyes on what's unseen. Since what is seen it's temporary. But as what is unseen is eternal. And of course, the highest point of the intangible world is a relationship with God, who is intangible, who you do not see. That's why Paul, when he wrote Timothy, as a prelude to his letter to Timothy, he said these words, now to the King, eternal, immortal, and invisible, the only God, be honor and glory forever and ever and ever. Amen. Now, it is true, though, that the tangible world can serve as a vehicle to bring us to the intangible. Music is a tangible, right? But have you ever had music bring you to the intangible? Most of you have. Sometimes right during worship. In fact, that's why we use music as a tool in worship. Because sometimes, and I know that most of you have had this experience, you just kind of hear la-di-da-di-da-di, your world's been spinning around, and all of a sudden some line from a song just catches. And you're going, oh crud, I'm going to lose it right here. I can't even continue on. Or this is what I came for. This is God's message to me. Out of some song you didn't pick, being sung maybe even off key, although not by Jeremy. But some words to some song or some melody takes you place. And sometimes it doesn't even have to have words to it. Some of you know that experience where you've listened to something and all of a sudden it drew you close to God. Music, for example, can be a vehicle that does that. Corporate worship, the words, the space, the things that we do together are designed to bring us to God. You know, the accountability of community, having a church family that you're actually part of, not just an attendee, but you're part of a family with responsibility and accountability and people that are annoying and people that you annoy, is part of what brings us to the intangible. Because when you start discovering things like forgiveness and grace and love for the unlovely, we start developing things that you can't put in that bottle. The Old Testament is full of things that God created as tangible things that help people understand what the important things of the intangible were. For the Hebrew people, they put this thing called first fruits. Some of you know about this. For the Hebrews, if you had an orchard, or if you had a farm, or you were a shepherd, you were required by Levitical law to go out and get the best pumpkin, the best sheep, the best cow, the best of whatever it was, the very, very best, the biggest, the blue ribbon award thing. And that was the thing, the first, right off the top, you took the very best, and that's the thing you brought, and you brought it to the temple and gave it as an offering to God. Okay. Why did God want those guys to do it? Because he wanted to understand that that is the way you get to the intangible. Not by God giving God your leftover time, your leftover energy, your leftover money, but by putting God first and making him first in everything, all of a sudden the intangible is unveiled to you. And so he gave him a vehicle so that would be a rehearsal. So why are we doing this? This is why we do this. Because in the painfulness of giving away my prized cow, all of a sudden I understand what the priorities of God are if I really want to have a rich life. I'm putting that first. And so it affects all of our time, and it affects all of it in the sense that if we take that first fruits idea, what that might mean is we might be the star soccer player of a team. And they decide to hold the games on Sunday mornings. And as a star soccer player, we go to the coach and you go, you know what? I know I'm your star soccer player, but I'm not going to be here on Sunday mornings. Because I'm going to give the best of who I am to worship God with my family. And of course, you'll be yelled at, you'll be put down, you don't understand, we need you. They don't need you there, we need you here. No, but I need to put my best in front of God. We as a church, folks, as a church in America, we don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore. And as a result, we've lost touch with much of the great intangible things that God wants to place in our life. As a result, many of us can't find those things that you wrote on your little list in our lives. We struggle to find them because we've got it all backwards. We've invested in all the wrong things. And it's not above God to use certain things, certain crash and burn things in our lives to bring the intangible up to us. They can be the loss of a family member, or they can be something that just doesn't work out right, but that teaches us what really, really matters. Many of you know Dane Spore's dad. He comes and worships here when he's visiting Dane. Dane's dad tells this really great story about Thanksgiving. If you know Dane's dad's one of those guys who's like a few of you, certainly not like me, but he's like a few of you, who if he buys something, before he opens the rest of the package, he gets the instructions out, and he reads all the instructions, probably in Spanish and English. You know, he reads all in whatever other language they have, but he reads all the instructions. And then he assembles whatever that thing is, piece by the instructions. Some of you are going, that's me, and some of you are going, no. That's why my VCR doesn't work. But that's the kind of guy he is. So he was having a bunch of friends come over his house in South Mission for a giant Thanksgiving party at his home. And he went out to get one of these brand new turkey smoker things. And he opened the box. He read all the instructions, got the exact size of the turkey, got the exact timer, how long to leave it. He figured it all out. They made the cranberry sauce. They made all the stuffing. They made all the good stuff for Thanksgiving. He put it in the smoker. And when the people started coming over, he goes, you know, and he knew exactly how long, down to the second. We've got this much time left. We have some time. We go down to the beach and just kind of hang out. So the whole crew cruised down to the beach and just enjoyed the sunset. Came back for this delicious Thanksgiving dinner. And when he pulled the lid off the smoker, the turkey was about this big and black. And because everybody knew Dane's dad was that sort of anal retentive kind of guy, you know, and that for him, that this was a massive fail, not just a fail, but the massive fail, that became even funnier. And they're all laughing at him. What are we going to do? I don't know what we're going to do. Nothing's open. It's Thanksgiving evening, and we're ready to eat. And so what do? You call Domino's. And so you have cranberry sauce and stuffing and pepperoni pizza. You know what his dad said? His dad said, I've had decades of Thanksgivings in my life. I don't remember one. Because in the end, it was about what really mattered. It was about the people and the fellowship and getting it all right. Not getting it all right, about the people in the fellowship, not getting all the things lined up and the silverware in the right place and the turkey working just perfectly. It was about the people. It was about a higher intangible value, those kind of friendships that last forever. And we in our lives, God gives us the opportunity to sometimes use the tangible things as a lesson of what the intangible is. And for us as a church, as a Christian church, God has given us an object lesson about the tangible and the intangible, about what really matters, using two very tangible elements. So guys, if you'll bring those forward. Because Jesus, on the night that he was going to be betrayed, he took two elements. One was a cup, one was a piece of bread. Common, everyday, household meal stuff. And he gave them an intangible meaning. And so as you guys, you can pass those out. If you'll take something tangible in your hand this morning, the bread followed by the cup, we're going to see if we can find the intangible meaning, that thing that you can't put in a bottle. The forgiveness of sin. The erasure of anything we've done because of the blood of Christ. The hope that goes beyond the grave. The joy of knowing God personally is all in this intangible piece of bread and in this tangible drink. Because on the night he was going to be betrayed, he took the bread and he broke it. And he said, "This is my body now." And so when you eat it, you're going to remember me. as a cup and bread is coming around, let's take some music and take us to that place where we're ready to receive the intangible.